All right. Well, welcome to Simper Sometimes with Benny. I got another fellow Marine on the episode with me. He had hit me up on Messenger, saying, "Hey, man, there's some stuff that I want to talk about. Marine Corps recruiting duty wise, and also, probably get into some other stuff too." So, without further ado, welcome. How the hell
Thank
are
you
you?
for letting me do this. I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm out here in lovely 29 Palms, California. Enjoying every minute of it. So
No doubt, man. So, are you off the duty now?
yeah, I got off the duty in May of 21 after 42 months. I got off the duty, went back to the fleet, went to Lejeune, and then I'm out here for school right now. So getting ready to wrap up here soon and go back and continue being a fleet Marine. Thank God, right?
Yeah. So so one of the things that we'll definitely get into is just the transition piece. Because like I have a bunch of buddies of mine who just, got back to the fleet. And some of them, like one of my boys, he's gonna come on and talk about it. But one of my buddies, he's really affected by it. He's like, bro, I'm a staff now. I'm like really not needed. Like I'm like on the other side of the spectrum, and for him he was just talking about like anxiety, depression, like he's kind of fucked up because like you went from doing something every day at all times on recruiting duty to now the opposite where no one's like, hey, where's this? And now he pretty much he's kind of talking about like his sense of purpose doesn't feel as needed as he was for the past 3 years on recruiting duty.
No, that makes perfect sense. And I think I kind of looked forward to that at first. Like, oh my,
Yeah.
I can't wait to just not like be like on call 20, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I could definitely see that. When I first got back, you get off at 1500 and you're just like, oh my God, what do I do
Yeah.
the rest of the time I'm here, and it's kind of hard too. It's almost like Stockholm syndrome. You're just so used to, and you're just so in love with just being worked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I found things to replace the gap of work, I guess you'd say. So I just started gymming more, started taking care of myself. I enrolled in like 3 different PMEs, stuff like that, just to fill
Yeah.
the time. But yeah, the transition piece was difficult at first, just because you're just so used to, like, you can't switch it off, Um, and I think that's with any sort of sales environment too, and the civilian side. I'm sure they
Yeah.
experience the same thing.
Yeah.
You're just always turning and going.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, it wasn't a very difficult transition. It was just if I'm not careful, I'm gonna either work myself to death in the fleet to replace that, and then the Marines are gonna get affected by it, and they're gonna hate me, or
Yeah.
I can find things to satisfy boredom, I guess.
So where are you at? Oh, by the way, we didn't even introduce you name wise.
Yeah.
Who are you?
So I'm a Staff Sergeant Kelson Epperson. I recruited in RS Albany up in upstate New York.
Oh shit.
Um, and I was at RSS Finger Lakes, which is in that's middle of nowhere. It's actually pretty good spot. Not gonna lie, I miss it quite a bit. The
Yeah.
location, at least. Um, it's they call it the wine country of the East. It's kind of ritzy, but also kind of country. It's got everything you'd want or need there. It's cold, uh, about 9 months out of the year.
Yeah.
It's pretty
So
chilly.
who was Master Guns Patriacus your boss? Was he
Yes,
the
he was.
RI?
He was the RI. Yes, he was.
So how was that?
Great.
Yeah?
I genuinely, that guy is a genius. He's very, very passionate. I'm sure you obviously know that.
Yeah.
Very, very passionate, but he's just, I mean, I remember to this day, I got a really good memory. And January 2018, we were to all hands. I think that was like his first all hands with the RS. And he came in, and number one, he said, we're going to write 110 contracts the next month. And I was just like, oh my God, like Albany, we're like 44 strong, like, 30,000 square mile radius. Like there's no way, we're struggling to make 80. And then he followed it up with this statement. It stuck with me for the rest of my time on the streets. And it was, there are people out there trying to cure cancer right now. We just want you to put names on packs. And I was like, oh my God, it really is that easy,
Yeah.
Obviously, there were times where, he'd get turned up a little bit, and he wasn't afraid to we'll just say he wouldn't coddle you,
Yeah.
But I genuinely enjoyed, and I still talk to him to this day. I genuinely enjoyed working for him and being trained by him because he's very intelligent.
Yeah. So he was so when I joined the Marine Corps, when I walked in the office to do my job interview when I walked in the office as an 18-year-old kid, he was the staff and COIC of the office.
That's awesome.
And he wasn't even, if I'm correct, he wasn't even 8412 yet. And or he had just become a 12. I don't remember where, like, because I gotta ask him at that time. But yeah, so I walked in. He was the first understanding I had of a gunnery sergeant. He was like blasted me. Like I turned around and like when they asked me, do you want to be a Marine? And I was like, yeah. He was like, what the fuck did you just say? And that's literally, until this day, I say that all the time. Like he is like my recruiter was cool, but if I had gone into that office that day and Master Guns Pat wasn't there, I probably wouldn't have joined the Marine Corps. Like no lie, like I would have been like a soft sale. I would have been like, yeah, that's what I said. That's literally what I said. I was like, yeah, and then like I would have gotten nothing left. But because of him being the staff and COIC in that office, he lit up a fire up under my ass, man, and he ended up, when I got on recruiting duty, he was just I think he was the ARI for a little bit, then he was the ops chief for a little bit, and then he had just moved, and what was
I think he went to the training team.
Yeah. So in Jersey, he was the ops chief for a little bit. And then he left us, I think, to go to you guys, because I came out here in 2017, and then 2018 was like right when he came to you guys, like you just said.
What BRC class were you?
I was 11 Tech 2. I don't remember. No, that was my deployment. No, I don't know, 17 Tech 1.
I was 6 Tech 17.
Okay, I don't remember how the numbers go. Or was I 1 Tech 17? I don't know.
I went there in
oh no. I was 4. I was 4 Tech 17. Okay, so I was like 4 or 5. I don't remember. You got there. I left June 15th was my graduation date. So that means that you got there right as I graduated. So you were the next class before me.
I checked into the RS, I think October 22nd. Actually, what is that? 5 years? No, we're in 21. 4 years ago to today, I checked in.
So I want to talk to you about what made you say, like, so now mind you, and this is what I'm trying to explain to people, I know nothing about you. I've never met you. You could be the shittiest of shit recruiters, but you're saying you're a good recruiter. Or maybe it's the other way around. I have no idea. So, the reason why, and I want to say this before we get into this, right? The reason why I started the podcast, the reason why I started these videos is because I want to be able to help people who are on the duty. And, I don't know if you watched my most recent video that I did while I was in my car, but I guess some people are taking it like I was shaming Marines and that I was calling people out. And I guess I just want to take a second to explain, because I don't want people to take it as like I'm being some kind of scumbag talking about how great I am. That's not at all what I'm trying to do. So a Marine had asked about product knowledge. Right. And my thing, and this is my thing as a recruiter, was I found that a lot of times we would sit down and you would have Marines that had issues with doing interviews, or you had issues with doing things, and they lacked an understanding of product knowledge. My thought process is that if you are a Marine for more than 4 years, you should know predominantly most of the product knowledge that you need in order to be a successful recruiter.
Yeah.
What is your thought processes on that? Like, was there, like, did you find that when you got on the duty that there was a lot of shit that you just didn't know? And
yeah,
then,
I mean, you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know until like you're in the moment. The kid asks you a question, and you're just like, I don't know. Let me figure that out. And get back to you. You know what I mean? So I think the big thing for me, which I knew a lot going out on the duty, and I think the product knowledge at BRC, you know, a lot of people talk about BRC is not like the greatest learning tool, I guess. I think it's okay where it's at as a baseline, because like you got to get baseline, and then that's what PAR is for, and the eval cycle and all that stuff. But going out there, I knew a decent amount, but then like I started encountering questions. And I think a big thing too, that you have to really pay attention to is certain things are different. Let's just take like the reserves, for example. Certain things are different depending on what state you're in. So you got to learn what, so.
Well, and that's, and then, you know, after I had made the video, I had reached out to the guy who made the text, and I was like, hey man, like what specifically did you mean when it comes to product knowledge? And a lot of what he was talking about was, okay, well, there's a reserve program, or, you know, different programs and stuff like that. And I'm like, but those are all things that like you said, go on Google and look them up, man. Like, you know, and I get
something else I did too. Yeah. I mean, and something else I did too when I got out there is I realized I didn't know a lot just about like, you know, like you have your narrow view of what your job is, what your MOS is, and the experiences that you drew from prior to. And I felt like I had a wider scope than maybe most people did, just because I'm a nerd and I like to read and stuff like that. But when I started figuring out that there's things I didn't know, the cool thing about being an RS is, you know, you got 44 to, I don't know, 88 different recruiters from different MOSs and different backgrounds. Like if you don't know something, you can always, like aviation, there's like 1.5 million different aviation. And I didn't realize like it's like 60% of the Marine Corps is aviation. I knew a decent amount of aviation, but I didn't know that there was like 5 different mechanics for one plane. So I'm like, oh my God, like there's more to it than just that. And you can call and talk to people and ask questions. And I mean, I would even just sit there and Google stuff randomly, or do my research before like an applicant came in, because I didn't want to give the kid bump scoop, number one, because it's the information age. They can just go Google it too, and then call me on my bluff if I'm not correct, and then my credibility shot. So I would research a lot and really just kind of put it on myself to figure a lot of things out. But then there's also the SMEs inside the RS, the ARIs, RIs, you know, guys have been doing it 10, 12, 15, 20 years, some of them, you know. But yeah, I think the baseline, what you're saying, should already kind of be there, you know?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like realistically, you know what the product knowledge is. Like if you, and then my thing is too, though, is like you should as an active duty Marine, you should know how to, you know, use TA. You should know the things about the GI Bill. Like I guess maybe that's not something that people don't know about because they can't use it till they get out, you know. So what's some, I guess the question because I want to be able to help this guy out, and I want to be able to help, you know, other people out that have the same question. So what is some good, useful product knowledge that you received while you were on the duty? Like what's some stuff? Because, well, before I even asked that, like you said, you had a good point. You know, every AO is different. So you need to, number one, find out, okay, well, like in New Jersey, right? I was a recruiter in New Jersey. I live in New Jersey. There's state police, there's chief tests, there's civil service tests. So like when it comes to that product knowledge, like you got to find out, okay, well, what towns are what, because you're going to get combated with those questions. So people are going to come in your office, and 9 times out of 10, if you really think about it, and this is where people fail in the changeover process, right? So when the changeover happens, somebody should be like, hey, Sergeant, these are the questions you're going to get 9 times out of 10. And this is the stuff you should really start studying, because people in this AO want to become cops. People want to do medical. People want to do this. People want to do this. So here's a list of the different programs that you can do in the Marine Corps to help get you there. Because that's the problem, is a lot of people don't do their research, and then they're asking questions like that. So, so I think that a lot of it also is the problem with the person who's transitioning back to the fleet, because they kind of drop their pack and they don't do a good changeover period, or even have the time to, because that person still looks like the right bones and they don't really get the time to do a changeover. I think that's a huge part of it too. But what's some good product knowledge that maybe you wish you had on, later on, and you didn't have immediately? Like, what's some good stuff that you learned that ended up easing your time?
I think a big thing that ate my time in the beginning, and then I really started to figure out after, I'd say, probably about 6 months. And I think this is a huge portion of product knowledge, is just knowing who your competition is and knowing what it takes to achieve whatever goal someone might have into, like take state troopers, for example. I didn't really know the ins and outs of what it takes to be a New York State trooper until a couple months in, and all I did was just, like, I called the state trooper recruiter. Hey, what do I need to be a state trooper, regular civilian off the street? Okay, what do I need if I'm in the military? Oh, it's completely different. You need this, this, and this, and then you already have this, and we'll take your JST and things like that. So I think the big thing that I wish I would have known going out there was just knowing my competition, what it takes to get into medical school, what it takes to be a nurse, what it takes to be, because again, narrow view of whatever you're doing and what's 10 feet in front of your face. You don't really think about those things. What it takes to be a mechanical engineer. Kids love the conservation department. And I didn't even know what that was. They're like, I want to be a DEC officer. I was like, what is that? A DEA? I know DEA. What's DEC? Oh, Department of Energy and Conservation. That's a thing. Oh my God, you need a bachelor's degree to do that? That's crazy. So things like that. It's just knowing your competition. I wish I would have looked a little more into it. And I think you are absolutely correct. The guy who's going to know that is whoever's transitioned out of that sector. Hey, here's some things that you should look for. The one thing that I had that I was fortunate to have was the guy that I replaced in the sector that I took over became the staff and CIC of the office. So if there was I kind of had a leg up. If there was any question I had about that area or what the kids wanted, I could ask him. But even more so, to the point that you're trying to make, as far as like figuring out who your competition is and the little quirks about things in that area that kids want, because you see the same 5 kids over and over again that I want to be a cop, I want to be a lawyer, I want to go to medical school, whatever it might be. The other Marines in the office are experiencing the same thing. It's just a different sector, so there's the transition piece may not be there, but then it kind of falls on the staff. And so I see the other recruiters to train the weak link, which is the new person, right?
Yeah. And then every Friday you should be like, hey, what shit are you guys running into? Like, what did you run into this week? What did you, what parent asked you this? So I think, I guess for my sake, a lot of the stuff that I really would, if you have an issue, and I know this is probably just like the easiest answer, but go online to the VA benefits website and just literally just look up what the difference is between the different GI Bills, look up what they pay for, look up what they don't pay for, look up how, because a huge part, of what, and I did an episode on reservists, but, one of the biggest things that irked me, but so I get it to an extent. But the worst thing ever and the worst feeling ever, and I had this feeling for 8 years, was when you meet reservists who are like, yeah, my recruiter told me this, and the third, and none of it's true. And it's like, it sucks, because as an active duty Marine, you really don't know shit about the reserve program. Yeah. So you're like, yeah, that's what so-and-so told me. And then, but the problem, and that's why, like, I said this when I was a recruiter, and I still say this to this day, one of the things that they honestly need to do, and I told this to one of the master guns I know, is that what they should do is that, like, they did it with me because I was an EAD Marine. So they had me and my other buddy stand in front of the whole all hands, and we gave a class about the reserve program.
Okay.
And that helped great.
Yeah.
But what should happen is that the Marine Corps Reserve Program has master gunnery sergeants who are career planners. So
Yeah.
they should have those people, even if it's once a quarter, go and talk to the local RS, because there's a even if it's not even the master guns, there's a reservist career planner in every I&I building.
Yeah,
So in
and it's
every
usually an
reserve
active duty
unit,
Marine too.
there's an active duty Marine who's in charge of being a reserve career planner. So why not once a quarter have that Marine come to all hands and give a class on the reserve program so everybody can have a better understanding? Because if anybody needs product knowledge on anything, it's that. Because the thing that nobody realizes, and like I said, this is another episode, is that no one's finding the right KG. Everybody's just finding a KG to put in the spot, and then that dude ends up shipping the boot camp, hating his life, and then within 3 months of being in the reserve program goes UA. Like 9 times, and then what do you think happens? We have to, that BIC is now unassigned because someone didn't fill it, they went UA, and now the Marine Corps has to then go find another reservist to fill that BIC. So it's a never-ending cycle. But if we put the right person in the right place the first time, then it would be a lot better. So the product knowledge on that piece, and I'm not gonna go, I did a whole, I think, like 45-minute episode on the reserve program, so I'm not gonna go all the way back into that. Like, but you need to understand that, and that's what I'm saying. Like when it comes to product knowledge, like it's really just about knowing, because you're not gonna know every MOS. You're not gonna know the scores for every MOS. You're not gonna, those are all the most important product knowledge you need to have is the product knowledge that's unique to your AO. And again, who am I fighting against? Okay, the Army.
Yeah.
What is the Army? What is their qualifications? What are they selling right now? What am I attacking against? So like, is there, but I kind of like, I don't know. I for me, again, I think the only product knowledge that I really like for me was, helmets to hard hats, that's a great program, that's a phenomenal program. A lot of the guys that I work with in Brooklyn at the reserve unit, they're all either cops or union, the Marine Corps League, that's a phenomenal, shoe-in. Or in New York, they have the Marine Corps League, but it's for the NYPD. So for me, that was something that I always talk to people about. Like, hey, bro, you want to be a cop? Bro, look at how many cops in your area are Marines that got out of the Marine Corps. Okay,
Yeah.
the Marine Corps had, and each of these affiliations has a Marine Corps League with inside of them. Why don't they have a VFW? Why don't they have American Legion? Why is it that they have a Marine Corps League instead? So I talked about that.
I think that goes back to being the mayor of your AO, kind of just knowing everything, being in the know.
And then you also, another thing when it comes to product knowledge is okay, what classes, so you already talked about it, your joint service transcript, okay? If you don't have that, if you don't have at least one of those printed out in your office to show people, then you're already outside the box. Like you need to have that printed off so you can show people like, hey, boom. And that's like, even like when people say, oh, recruiting duty doesn't do shit for you, bro, the amount of credits you get just from recruiting duty. Like I went online to some college and they literally told me with everything I have in the Marine Corps and recruiting duty that I only have to do like one more year of college to get a bachelor's degree. So that right there alone needs to be something that you're showing people. And then, the other product knowledge would really be just understanding what the people in your area are looking to do. And then how are you going to have the Marine Corps mirror that way into that and shoe into that?
Yeah.
What, do you have anything else on product knowledge, anything else that you felt was something that helped you in your time on the duty?
Just, I mean, going to the length of actually like, it can be hard, especially when you're on the grind and the mission monkey's on your back and you may not be doing as well as you think you are. and it's really easy to stop trying to build a relationship with someone, which was always the goal for me. So I mean, just the biggest thing for product knowledge, I think, was taking the time to actually like understand what said person wants, how and what they have done so far to achieve that, and then showing them exactly like how the Marine Corps kind of bridges the gap, no pun intended, between what they want right now and what they're going to get in the future. So it's just a little like an extra 5% of effort will go a long way on the streets, and I'm sure you know that too.
Yeah. So another thing he had said was knowledge recruiters should know before hitting the streets and how to research their area. So I think a huge thing too is a piece of advice would be to look at your past pack cards and look in the working file of the people who never joined, because you're
Right.
going to see if the person well, again, this matters if the person took notes, right? If the person actually painted a picture for you, because you're going to find out why kids never came back. You're going to find out why kids joined. Excuse me. You're going to find out why kids decided to go other places. And then when you're making those phone calls in the working file, you're going to find out where they went and why they went there. Or did it fail? Did it not work out? Did their plan of what they wanted to happen? So that's the research you got to do. But the most important things you got to find out is you have to find out, again, every area is different, but it's like, right, it's like, what's like, because like when I was in my area, one of the biggest unique things was that there was a college that would pay for you to go, it was for New Jersey Natural Gas, and they would pay for you to go to college for 2 years and then give you a job working for the natural gas company for New Jersey. So
Wow.
that was like everybody's thing. But the problem was, and I didn't know this until I started looking into it, was that number one, it was a very hard program to get into. And then it was a very hard program to stay in. And also the waiting list was forever. So like that was the question now. Okay, well, hey man, what are you going to do for the next 2 years while you got to wait for this course? What's your plan in between now? So maybe that's a shoe in for the reserve program. So you have to know, again, what are you battling, and then how is the Marine Corps going to help them get there? And then that's another thing, if people are trying to, you have colleges like Embry-Riddle, where people are, oh, I want to go to Embry-Riddle. Bro, I go to Embry-Riddle when you can do all of the same stuff in the Marine Corps and get more college certificates. We have more, and that's the thing, like you said, if you're I never did this before, but I just thought maybe it would be a good idea. In your Mickey OB, you have those parts where it's for each MOS.
Yeah.
What you could do, like you said, is you're surrounded by 88 recruiters, and of all MOSs, have a recruiter from that is in aviation print out his JST, so that you can show, hey, listen, man, these are all.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I never thought about that till just now. Like, hey, man, because that's what I would do. And someone was dogging me because I said that on the episode. Like, bro, you can go screw yourself. If I didn't know something, again, I don't want to lie to you, and then you leave my office and be like, yo, this dude lied to me. Yeah, so I would literally, like, bro, you have an iPhone, FaceTime somebody, and people in the Fleet Marine Corps that do the job that this kid's talking about wanting to do. And now, mind you, again, we don't sell jobs, but at least you can explain, hey, man, these are the certificates that I've got. These are the abilities that I've got. And bro, if you don't know how to talk or articulate about the GI Bill, guess what? Or the TA, people who've used TA in the Marine Corps. Yeah. Hey, gunnery sergeant, can you explain to this kid and or me XYZ how to go from point A to point B? And I think that's a huge part of it. Is it's not that because when you say I need when you ask the question of when you ask the question of what product knowledge did you need, that's a very vague question. Like, bro, there's a lot of product knowledge, you know what I mean? And I think that, and that's what I was trying to go with on the episode, was just that, a lot of people, in my opinion, a lot of recruiters, they just find it so hard to have an interview process and or to articulate these things to an applicant, but they would be able to do it to a Marine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So I think
And
I think my thing was just be more confident in what you already know,
mhm.
because you know most of the shit that you need to know. Like you're not, these are all things that you know learned, you know. But so area canvassing, were you more of a telephone guy or were you more of an area canvasser? Like how was, and also how was your AO built?
AC, AC 100%. So when I first got out there, um, I was definitely like, I'm not an introverted person, I don't think by any means. But starting out, like I wasn't really, I didn't go to clubs and bars and stuff like that. Obviously having normal conversation with people outside of work is one thing. I kind of kept to myself and my family before I got out on the street. So I kind of hid behind the phone. I'll admit to it now. And I'm sure if my old staff advisor listens to this, he'll laugh about what I'm about to say. But um, I thought I was Jordan Belfort on the phone, and I was pretty decent. I was reining in appointments and interviews, and I think I wrote my first couple of contracts off of strictly TC list canvas. It's not even PPCs or anything. Just getting the kid in the office on the phone. And he took me to a community college one day, and he's like, "Hey, go talk to that kid over there." And like it was like a train wreck. I'm like, he's like, "Yep, I knew it." He's like, "You're not ACing how you should be, or at least you think you're doing a lot better than you are." So I was like, "All right, he's right." So I started just kind of pushing myself outside of my comfort zone. And I got to the point where if I couldn't AC, like the day was kind of shot for me. The phones were not the greatest in my AO. And social media wasn't either for me. My staff specialist used to like his hair to catch on fire because my ratio for DC sent to just making a contact was like 90-1. It was terrible. And the way my AO is set up was actually kind of difficult to AC. My furthest school was an hour away. So, I mean, we're talking really spread out. You would go 15, 20 miles sometimes without seeing a person. So the way I used to AC is kind of hilarious. I used to AC from my car,
Oh,
believe it or not.
that's all I ever did, bro.
Yeah.
So before you continue on, my boy, when he was a brand new recruiter, he was like, "Bro, do you ever get out of your car?" I was like, "Fuck
No,
no." I was like, "Bro, this is my mentality. Number one, it's cold as shit out. Why the hell am I gonna get out of this cold ass car with the heat on when I don't have to?" That's
yeah.
number one. Number two, when it becomes summertime, why do I want to walk around in this uniform, sweat my fucking ass off to keep having to go get it dry clean when I could be in the car with the air conditioning on? Nah, I'm gonna just pull up on you. I'm gonna roll my window down and be like, "Yo, come here." And no matter what you do, every single time you roll your window down and say, "Come here," they fucking come to you.
They come. No, I used to. I mean, I would get out and walk around every now and again, but
Yeah,
the bread and butter for me was table displays. Even in the randomest spots, like putting it in the mall,
yeah.
if I could get it done, and just people walking by. So school's a lot for AC, and then yeah, just from the car. As creepy as this sounds, and I hope people listening don't feel some type of way about this, but if it was like 2:30, 3 o'clock, and I knew school was getting out soon, and I was in the area, I'd go sit in the parking lot and wait for kids to come out. Because some kids walk, some kids go to their car. I wouldn't run up behind someone and like, "Hey, what are you doing?" As they're getting in their car. But if they're walking down the street to the sidewalk, I would walk up to them. "Hey, how was class today?" Start a conversation. If the conversation went past a minute, I would put more effort into it. But if they didn't seem like they wanted to talk, I wasn't going to waste my time because there
Yep.
was, I could go down the road and do the same thing with somebody else.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Or I would just
but
quickly get their name and then just put it in the pack card, put it in the AC, not interested, boom.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I developed a really strong relationship with a lot of the teachers, administrators for most of my schools. I had 10 schools. There was only like one or two that like access was very limited. It was very hard to get into the school. If I got in, they'd stick me in the counseling library, just to satisfy the check in the box for letting me come, once a month or whatever, and no one would show up. But there were schools where I could walk in there and probably kill a student, and they would help me hide the body. You know what I mean? Like they just love me. And that was a big piece of my success while I was out there was teachers, really. Because I would go have my AC time set up, and I would just go walk in the school and go down and talk to the gym teacher, and he'd be like, "Hey, actually, have you talked to this kid this year? He's not doing too well in school, and he doesn't think he's going to go to college. He doesn't really know what he wants to do. I can set something up for you." And they would set it up for me. Just lots of rapport with the teachers and stuff like that. But yeah, AC was my bread and butter. Me and this other guy I worked with, one of my best friends in the whole world now. We were on the streets together as campus recruiters for about a year with each other. And there was a community college like 5 minutes down the street from our office. And like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we would go take a table up there and just sit there for like 2 hours. And it wouldn't stand up or anything. They would just walk by, and we would heckle them or just like, "Hey, like, we like the shirt, or whatever."
Yeah.
Or like, "Anybody want a lanyard?" And they come over, and then you just, initiate the conversation. And I think with AC, the biggest thing is you got to really, if you're not comfortable, you ain't doing your job. You gotta push yourself really hard.
I like that I'm glad that you brought that up, is the comfortability of it, because the thing is, so like my boy calls it secondhand embarrassment. That's what he calls it. So what I do, and I remember I did this when I went to a new office. I went to a new office for about 3 months before I became a staff in CSC. And we went to this college, same thing like you're talking about. They had table setups, but sometimes they would just show up to the college. And what they would do is they would be all the time. They'd be walking around, and like talking to the same people over and over and over again. And I thought back to when I was a brand new recruiter, and I had this guy, Staff Sergeant Orana, and
you said Orama?
Orana. And
okay.
So Staff Sergeant Orana, what he would do is he'd be in the mall, and he would just sit down, and he would just sit there on his phone. And then when people would walk by, he'd be like, "Hey, what's going on?" And he would be like, "Yo, come here for a minute." So then I started doing the same thing. And then I was doing it at the colleges. And I remember one day it was me, my boy Gonzalez, and my boy Gary. And they were like going after everybody. They were like, "Yo, we gotta find appointments. I was like, "Bro, just shut up and sit down." I was like, "Just sit on that bench and they're gonna come to you." I was like, "Just stop moving, just sit down." And no lie, funny as shit, my boy Gonzalez gets mad every time I talk about this, but I sat down on the bench, and literally 2 minutes later, this dude come walking up. "Hey, what's going on, man? Are you a Marine?" And he's like, and I'm like, "Yeah, why? What's up, man?" And he's like, "Yo, I've always been thinking about becoming a Marine." And I was like, "Bro, this couldn't have happened at the better time." And but that was the thing, is because for me, a huge part of the area canvassing, or even the telephone call, everything encompasses one thing for me. And for me, even the interviews, the process, the whole entire process, right? The C2C chain. If you're thirsty as hell, people are going to know that, and it's going to draw them away. It's the same thing I used to say when, going into a bar. If you go into a bar and you look like you're thirsty as hell, you look like you're trying to bag whatever chick you can just to go home with her, no one's going to want to come next to you. But if you just go in there, chill as fuck, you know what you want, you know what you need, and you're not thirsty about it, and you're just having a casual conversation, and you're really trying to understand the person, you're learning their motivators, you're building rapport with them, and then you bring up the conversation of recruiting duty, or "Hey man, I'm a recruiter, have you thought about it?" Whatever. If you smooth them into that, or you just move them on their way into that, and you actually use the steps the way they're supposed to be used, enabling and doing all those things, those MC3 skills, if you really do that the way you're supposed to, even if you do them out of order, it works. But that's the thing, is, like I said, man, like I would just sit there and be like, "Yo, man, come over here real quick." Or I would fuck with them, I'd be like, "Yo, you dropped something." And then they would look down at the ground, and I'd be like, "Nah, man, I'm just playing with you. But hey, my name is Sergeant Bennett with the Marines. Have you ever thought about being a Marine?" Or, or I would look at them and be like, "Yo, Bill." And they'd be like, "I'm sorry?" I'd be like, "Bill, right? Yeah, I met you like 2 or 3 days ago. We talked about this, and they're like, "No." I'd be like, "Oh shit. Well, hey man, my name is Sergeant," and now we're already talking, or I would compliment their fade. You know, even if
Right.
you had the worst haircut in the world, I'd be like, bro, that's a freaking sick fade. Where'd you get it at? And then they'd be like, yo, I got it at, yo, thanks for looking out, bro. I appreciate you, dog. And I'd be like, yo, you, yeah, good, man. And then I would just boom, start talking about whatever, you know, and I think, you know, like you said, if you're not comfortable, you know, doing it, then there's a problem. Like if you're not uncomfortable, my bad, like you
Yeah.
should be really, you know, you should be making people uncomfortable, bro. Talk to every single person, you know,
Yeah.
because that's the thing is, and you know, when people say that, oh, bro, like when people come back to the office, oh, I couldn't find nothing, bro. That just means you weren't looking, dog. Like,
Yeah. I mean, I will say, AC during the current environment, we'll put it that way, can be challenging
yeah, I feel
just
like,
because. Yeah, I mean, it can it's gotten challenging, but
yeah,
you know,
like with the whole social distancing and the masks.
yeah, schools limited access now.
Yeah,
But you know, parking lots aren't limited access.
bro.
Most of the colleges are, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's one of those things. I genuinely, if I could, like I said, if I couldn't AC, my day was shot. And the way I set up my like daily schedule was ridiculous. I did not want to work past 6, so I like maximize my efforts. I used to try to be out of the office by 9 and start my AC, and I would just do it all day. And my TCs, I would take my list with me, and if I was posted up in a parking lot or whatever, I got my phone with me. I would just sit there and I would make them and just mark them on the paper, and then later that day I'd go back in and just annotate it before I left for the day. Right.
Bro,
Um,
and that's the thing, man. I'm glad that you brought that up because, you know, and that's the, you know, that's the thing about it, man. And that's, you know, I've talked about this with 8412s. I've talked about this with recruiters. Like, I think it's, I think it's very, and again, I understand there's a place and time for it all, but I think that when you make Marines, hey, we're, the whole office is gonna TC from 11 o'clock until 1 o'clock. And
no,
then you're gonna TC from 17 to 19, and then you're gonna drive back here. It's like, bro, if it takes me an hour alone just to get out to my AO, and then you want me to be back here at this time when all of our AOs aren't the best for TCing at the same time. Like, and that's the purpose of having an SNR, and that's the purpose of having an AO, is because every AO has to be worked differently. But you know, and me and my boy Ujama, Gunner Research Ujama talked about this, but a lot of it's fear and a lot of it's wanting control.
yeah, yeah, because you're, especially the staffs I see, that mission's yours and yours alone, really. And you want to do the things that you think are going to pay off in the long
Mhm.
run. But I think that really, like what you're saying with that piece is you have to give the Marine the benefit of the doubt. So like if you know that they can make their own schedule and do what they need to do, and they'll do it, and you don't have to hold their hand the whole time. Their schedule should be whatever they want. Hey, whatever you're doing is working, do it.
Yeah,
And then kind of refine it, like as you go along during the weeks. Um, Someone who's struggling or someone is just burnt, and like, I don't want to do this anymore, so I'm just going to kind of do whatever I want. No, that timesheet, all that stuff.
yeah,
Hate to use the word micromanage, but you kind of have to, because you have to baseline it, get back to the basics, figure out, okay, is this dude just like not doing the job, or is he legitimately like having problems making contact? Like, well, how do we figure that out?
yeah. You know, I think if I really think about it, from all the conversations I've had with people across, you know, the MICRIC, you know, I think a huge part about it, man, is I really don't think there's really too many shitty recruiters. I think there's just shitty Marines that don't want to be on a duty. I
I would
think
agree with that.
like I really honestly think, because bro, like I think it's more so the people that just don't want to be successful because they start every day off with, oh well, it's not gonna happen. Oh well, it's not like, and the, you know, and the idea that you're telling me, you know, I tried to be out of the office by 6, and that means that you figured it out. And that's the thing, bro, is if you can make it to the point where, you know, you have a good morning in meeting and you have a good SNR and you're following it and you're getting your pack cards and you're getting your TCs, then you're getting your ACs, and you're, you know, you're giving your two a month and or more. you know, there's no reason why you can't have a normal livelihood. And that's the part that's fucked up is, you know, you got people like I hit my boy up, you know, and I asked him, I'm not gonna say his name, but I was like, it was Saturday at 5 o'clock, right? Yesterday. And I was like, hey man, what are you doing? I already knew what he did because I'm on Facebook, I'm on FaceTime with him and I see his background. And I'm like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm at work. I'm like, bro, did you make mission? He goes, what kind of question is that? I'm like, so you made mission, but you're still at work on Saturday at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Like, that's the shit that people just don't, it doesn't make sense, bro. Because that's the thing that why Marines get so mad about this duty is because even when, and that's the thing that's hard about it, right? So say you have yourself, right? You're a good recruiter, you're doing your job, you're coming home, and so were you able to actually legitimately leave at 6?
Most of the time, sometime after 6, I was able to roll out of there. So I'll kind of describe the way I had my schedule, and I did it this way so I was a canvas human recruiter for almost 30 months before I took over as a staff and so I see. And the way I had my schedule was I got there really early. I'd get there at like 6:30, and all that really was like, okay, if I had an appointment, time to do my research for the day for what they want, time to do all my admin in the morning, so that way I can I don't have to do it tonight, right? Stuff like that. Try to get a little PTM when I could. Obviously, we all know that's difficult. Really try to focus on the poolies, but I would DC in the morning, so all social media, and that encompassed post, messaging. I would send out like 50 messages and just wait for people to read them as the day went along. I'd do that for about 2 hours, and then I would try to roll out of the office around like 9 or 10, go to a school every day. Doesn't matter what school, doesn't matter what I'm doing there. I always live by the rule, always have a reason to go back. So like I would always, if I was just dropping something off or I was going to go talk to someone, hey, we spoke last week, he wanted me to come back and do this thing, whatever. And that's how I started getting my contacts. And then, I would hit stores on the way back to the office for my TC time, which was always in the afternoon. And I'd try to get, at least 4 ACs a day, if I could. And then I'd get back to the office, TC, have my appointment in the later end of the day, or sometimes in the middle of the day if it was a senior, but grads toward the end of the day. Try to shut down by 6, 7 at the latest. And a lot of times what I would do is just take my laptop home and sit in the floor with wife and kid and put all my admin in. So I'd still be kind of working, but I would be home,
Yeah.
I didn't want to be there any longer than I had to. Weekends too, did not want to work weekends. I only did it if I had to. Sunday and shipping, that I don't really count, I guess. You want to take your shippers up if you have a good relationship with your kids. And Saturdays were for pool functions, and then that was pretty much it. If the kids wanted to get together on Saturday, I'd always ask the pool, hey, you guys want to do something Saturday, like go PT or go to the mall or something, something dumb like that. I would always bring the wife and kid with me because my wife, she loved all the poolies. I had some seriously strong relationships with all my kids for the most part, families too. So we would go out to dinner with the families and stuff and get everybody together. So, that's the type of stuff that, like, once you kind of figured out, that's when it becomes fun. And I think that the pool is the coolest thing about Marine Corps recruiting duties because the how much focus and emphasis we put on the kids up front, and you get to see the investment pay off as they go on and get meritoriously promoted and do big things in the fleet or even the SMCR as they go along. And I think that if you do everything right on the nitty gritty activity side, HVAC, DC, all that stuff, interviews, appointments, and that becomes not necessarily something that you're concerned about all the time. Your focus is solely on the pool, and that's how you get honor graduates, and that's how you get kids that you don't worry about and lose sleep over when they ship. That's how you get contracts, really, because those kids come back and like, hey, my recruiter did this, this, and this for me, and he can do it for you too. Look at me now. And I think it got to a point for me in 2019 where it was almost like a perpetual motion device. It just, everything worked for me. If I put work in here, it would come back to me later. And it took a lot of trial and error. 2018, my first year, was a lot of figuring things out, figuring out who I was out there, figuring out how to be better, more competitive, I guess. I competition streak, whatever. And then 2019 was the greatest year I had out in the streets. It was fun just being a recruiter. I woke up every day and genuinely enjoyed going to work and seeing who I was with and seeing the poolies that I had. And I always worked poolies into my schedule too. And I think that's a big thing for area canvas that really helps. I used to have this calendar on my desk, and after planning, we'd solidify planning, right? The PT before planning, what I would do is I'd sit every pulley down, and I'm like, you're giving me like at least 2 days out of the week through the entire month where I can take you with me, and we can go around and go to schools or go to the mall or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that really helped.
No, it definitely does, because they're going to introduce you to people that you don't know. Then it's, and that's the thing too, getting, talking about the area canvassing thing, like you go to stores and just talk to people about talking to people. Like go to Walmart, go to whatever store it is, and just be a human being. And don't even, like, they clearly know you're in uniform, so don't even bring up Marine Corps recruiting duty. So, hey man, hey man, I'm here, looking for this. Do you have this? Because they know you're always in the same store. You're always there. Whether you do it every Wednesday at 9, you're always there once a week or twice a week, or maybe even every day.
Right.
So when you become that guy who keeps asking the same dude over and over again the same question, it's like, okay, well, why not just let that dude come to you? And that's the thing too, is like, don't buy everything at one store. Buy everything as you go through the day. Like if you're white, like me, what I used to do is I would have my wife let me know what chores needed to get done, or what groceries needed to get got, or what errands need to be ran. And then I would run the errands through the day. So that gave me a reason to go to different stores. I'd be a different customer in each of those stores. You couldn't kick me out because I wasn't soliciting. And then it would literally just be an easy way for me to transition into that. Or I would literally, what I would also do is I would be at like Walmart, and I would waste some dude's time, like someone that worked there. I'm like, yeah, man, I'm really looking at getting this iPhone, and he was talking me up, and then I'd be like, listen, bro, honestly, I was never buying that, but you did a really good job, and you have really good personal skills, and I think that you definitely deserve a lot more than just this job. So what are you trying to do after this? Because this can't be all of it. And then boom, we would go on to a whole new conversation, and we would get into that. But
yeah, I always felt like, and I used to tell my guys this, even as a canvassing recruiter. Obviously you care, but I was like, stop caring about what you think you look like to other people. Stop caring about what you like, the things that you're doing, like, because a lot of times I think, and this is just a kind of the nature of the beast type thing, is people are really afraid to offend other people's feelings and their time, right? So like calling someone out of the blue, like what if they're, doing something? What if they're busy? I'm like, yeah, well, can they have like 2 minutes to talk to me for a second? Like I'm not really trying to like take you away or anything, just 2 minutes. And some people are like, oh, but like, I don't want to, pump the brakes a little bit. Or even like, here's a good example. So you get a kid, the kid says he wants to be a Marine. Okay, let's go to MEPS next week. Actually, I was thinking more like the end of the month. Well, what's the problem? Well, my mom and dad. Okay, let's go talk to them tomorrow. Some people are like, well, you don't even know their schedule. Well, we haven't talked to them yet. If I call them and they can do tomorrow, I'll do tomorrow. But if they can't, then they can't. Like you can't be afraid to do those things. So I used to tell them to just, hey, like don't give a fuck.
And that's the thing too. Going off of that, is there's a lot of people who are afraid to be aggressive. And some people are like, oh, like people used to tell me, bro, you're way too aggressive. And I was like, no, man, I'm going to be aggressive as fuck. And then I'm going to tell you that. So I used to be really aggressive. And then some people would take it the wrong way. So then I would just tell you, hey, listen, man, I don't know if you think I'm coming off aggressive right now, but if it comes off that way, this is why. And then I would paint the picture. I'd be like, listen, man, or parents, like I did an interview one time at a kid's house, and my boy Morales was sitting at the dinner table with us, and we're doing the benefit tags at the dinner table. And I just looked at the kid. He's a Marine now. And I looked at the kid, and one of the tags was self times three, the other one was part of belonging. And I straight up looked at him, and I was like, well, you're not gonna get that in the fucking Navy. Well, I didn't curse because his mom, we were at the dinner table. But I
Yeah.
was like, you're not gonna get that in the Navy. And I was like, this is right now what's going on. And I went off on him. And then his mom looked at me from across the table and said, sir, don't you think you're being a little bit aggressive with my son? And then I looked at her and I was like, ma'am, but if you look at what your son just put down on this table, that's exactly what he wants, is he wants me to act that way towards him. And I was like, and now where I set up the process, I was like, you know what? I'll call the recruiter right now so you can talk to the Navy tomorrow. I'll call
Oh
the Army
yeah, I used to do
recruiter.
that all the time.
I have the number for the Army recruiter. I'll call him right now so you can talk to him on Monday. I'll set it up. I'll set all of it up for you. And she was like, but don't you think it's being a little aggressive? I was like, man, I want to prepare you and me for every possible issue that can come up. And your son's time, your time, and all of these things matter to me. So yes, I understand that I may be coming off aggressive, but you don't know the timetable like I do. I was like, what happens if your son goes to the medical entrance processing station and hasn't, I'm sorry, military entrance processing station? What if he goes to MEPS, ma'am, and he has something happen to him that we didn't know about? Well, now that's going to take time. That's going to take days. That's going to take days for us to get medical records. What happens if, God forbid, something happens to the family and you guys can't go that day? I was like, and so then I would explain why I was so aggressive, and
Yeah.
then they would be like, oh, okay, I get that. So you're actually looking out for my best interest. Like, exactly, that's exactly why I am. But meanwhile, I'm just trying to get some dude to go SDP on Monday.
Yeah. And what I used to do too in a similar way, one, if I ever felt like I was like, if you can tell you're being edgy, like other people can really tell, and that's something that I tried to create is, I'm edgy in my mind, but the way my body language and the way that I'm speaking, like I'm not, I'm more relaxed and calm. Because obviously you want to get them up as fast as possible. But what I really try to do is really, especially with parents, is make it about them. And in reality, like that's the way it should be anyways.
Yeah.
So you're talking about, is this a little aggressive? And I would always say like, yeah, I mean, it is, but like it's September or October of your son or daughter's senior year, and they haven't even started applying to colleges yet. Like, this is their future. Wouldn't you want to be aggressive about their future? And even like the kids, like I would speak about societal issues. Like when I was like 16 years old, like I had a plan, like I figured it out. And I feel like most people probably in our age group would do that, right?
Yeah.
But nowadays kids are like, yeah, I'll figure it out as I go along. And the kids that don't are the kids that are like the valedictorian, summa cum laude, all that crap. And that they already have it, pre-planned from birth essentially. But there's a lot of kids out there that just kind of take it as it comes. And like, that's just one of the big things that I used to get disinterest wise. And someone would say, there's just so much unknown to it, or it's so scary. And I'm like, it's really scary being 18 years old and having this zero plan. That's really scary. At least this way, you know what you're doing every step of the way for at least the next 4 years.
Yeah.
And I would just, to negate or kind of like take away from how aggressive I was being, I would just make it about them. Because I mean, that's what it really is at the end of the day.
Yeah.
The Marine Corps is the branch that recruits to sustain the legacy. As corny as that sounds, like it's not really about me at all. It's more so about that person getting either what they want as a stepping stone or being the next sergeant major of the Marine Corps, and the Marine Corps having Marines to do what we do,
Yeah. Yeah. And then, and going off of like what you just said, like, that's what I would do kind of the same thing. I would just be like, listen, man, you just turned what now, mind you, whether they're 18 or whatever. I'd be like, if I was dealing with someone that was a high school senior, I would ask the parents and them, but man, how does it make you feel that you're about to graduate high school and everybody's around you is asking you, what are you going to do for the rest of your life? I was like, you don't know. I was like, do you know right now? I was like, you have no idea. Because 9 times, like your parents, they've changed their jobs, they've had 2 or 3 different jobs, they've had different passions. You grow as an individual throughout your lifetime. So why is it
Yeah.
okay that right now you have to know exactly what you're gonna do for the rest of forever? I was like, that's why you're sitting in my office right now, or that's
Yeah.
why you should be sitting in my office right now. Because the reality of it is like, wouldn't you be more relaxed and more calm if you were able to go to college while in the Marine Corps, get your job, get these certificates, get all these credits while figuring out who you are so you can grow as a leader, as a person, and become somebody and do all of those things and encompass all that at the same time? Like, doesn't
Yeah.
that sound better? And then they'd be like, oh shit, actually, I never really thought about that. But so and like you said, man, it's also about, when you're on the, especially when you're on the phone, man, like, you're gonna get, a lot of people, and I know I was the same way. Like, when I first started making phone calls, I hated making phone calls. And I would get to the point where I would just be like, bro, hang up already, or I would hope that they'd answer and hang up, or that they wouldn't answer at all. But then I
Mhm.
got, but then eventually to me it became a game to where, okay, you know what, I'm gonna see how long I can keep you on the phone before hanging up. Or
Right.
I'm gonna see if I can flip you as a mother. So if you get on the phone with me and you're rude and you're aggy and you're talking down to me and or to the military, I'm gonna do everything I can to actually get you on my side. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
ask you questions about your kid, about your family. Oh, well, why do you feel that way, ma'am? If you don't mind me asking, why do you feel that your son wouldn't be for this? Because 9 times out of 10, you get that. Oh, that's not for my son. That's not for my kid. And then I'd be like, okay, well, man, why do you feel that way? Or I'd be like, well, man, what do you feel is for your son? Have you talked to your son? Have you asked your son? And there's a lot of different, TC techniques that work for some people. So what would you, so just kind of going off to the, you know, what would you say? So you actually told me, I'm sorry, you told me that you were actually thinking about becoming an 8412 and then you decided not to at the right before it all ended.
Yeah. Um, I did. Like, as a canvassing recruiter, and I'm glad my wife's not sitting here because she'd probably have a little bit of a different opinion. But I genuinely enjoyed. I would say a solid 80% of it. The 20% was definitely my first like 3 months or so, where you kind of get your teeth kicked in because you don't really know what you're doing, and you kind of just feel like an idiot the whole time. Is really how I felt. Also, just to the point for any potential volunteers and for recruiting duty, or guys that get histed, like, have a backup plan with your by name if it falls through. I'm from Alabama. I'm from Tuscaloosa, which is western central Alabama, where the university is, and that's where I was told I was going back to. I had a by name request to the RS there, and they're saying, hey, you're going to go to um, you're going to go to your station in your hometown. We need you. Like, it's not doing well. Like, we think you could really shake it up there. And so, like, even the night before district assignment at BRC, like, they hit me up and they're like, hey, happy to have you aboard the team and everything. I'm like, oh my God, it's working out. Like this is going to be great. And then the next morning they're like, First Marine Corps District. And I was like, excuse me, what? What do you mean First Marine Corps District? Like, here, this is what it says on the paper. You're going First Marine Corps District. Go to this room. Go in, listen, all these sergeant majors give a brief, and uh, you don't you don't know where you're going. I'm like, okay, which one of these is my sergeant major? And then you see RS Albany, and you're like, oh my God, that's all the way up there. Jesus. And then they told me what town I was going to, and the town name is Canandaigua. The first couple letters in the name say Canada, and I was like, is that Canada? How far is that from Canada? It's an hour and 10 minutes from Canada. Like, oh my God. So the first couple of months was like just moving somewhere we'd never been before. I don't know anything about that area. Driving in the snow, I put the gov in the ditch like 10 times. You know what I mean? Like my first winter there. And it was different. But once I started to get in a groove and really started to fall in love with the area, we started, really enjoying it. And in 2019, I was the first district recruiter of the year. And I was like, you know what, like I think this is where I'm supposed to be. Um, and like I genuinely enjoyed making relationships with kids and making relationships with parents, um, and seeing my kids do great things. And a lot of what I had set out to accomplish from joining the Marine Corps in the first place, I had already done prior to going on recruiting duty. You know, I kind of felt a large sense of fulfillment in my life at that point. So I kind of told my CO, I was like, I want to be a staff NCOIC because um, at the time, with the amount of contracts that I had written, they thought that I had the potential to be a centurion, and I thought I could do it too. I was only 30 something shy, with just over a year to go. So I was like, you know what, I think I really could do this. But then, I was like, I just, I want to, I want to have Marines come on recruiting duty and love it the way I did. Um, so I wanted to kind of be there for, just be a leader, be there for someone who comes out and doesn't get what they want, and they think the whole world's crashing down. I kind of just wanted to be the guy to say, hey, come here, it's going to be okay. This is what we're going to do, and you're going to be successful, and you're going to love it, and then you're either going to go back to the fleet or you're going to stay like me.
Yeah.
Once I became a staff, and so I see, it was not being a canvassing recruiter. You do your thing, and it works for you, and that's the hardest thing that I had to really accept, was that the Marines that I had were not me, and they were never going to be me. And if it didn't work for them, it's not going to work for them.
Amen.
Yeah. So I struggled. I mean, I made mission as a staff associate. I think in 12 months I missed twice, and it was toward the end of my time there, which was kind of I don't want to go out like that. I hope I didn't leave a bad taste in anybody's mouth up in Albany, but I enjoyed the Marines that I had, and I enjoyed getting through it. It got to the point, especially with the current environment. It's a challenging recruiting environment, not just in one singular location. It's all across America right now. That it's becoming more challenging. I don't know what causes that. I have no idea, because there's nothing that really changed significantly aside from certain things in the time frame that I was there. But yeah, I mean, toward the end, my wife was just growing very, very unhappy, and I think I kind of was too. And I was like, you know what, I don't think I want to do this anymore. So kind of pulled out. If I ever go back, I don't think I will. If I got histed, I wouldn't stop. I wouldn't say, oh no, I'll just get out. No, I'll definitely go back. But I don't think I'm gonna willingly go volunteer and try and go back again. Especially because I think I set out to accomplish pretty much everything that I wanted to on recruit duty. When I left, the CO asked me, a series of questions, and that was one of the questions: did you accomplish everything you set out to do here? And I was like, well, yeah, I did, and I felt pride, fulfillment. I was happy about going back, and then it became the nervous transition and getting back into the swing of things, and just remembering how to Marine again,
Yeah.
and not wear blues and stop walking and talking on the cell phone.
Yeah. Right. But
So
so what, I guess kind of before we end it, what would you say, all in all, are things that you need to know coming out on the duty? Like, what are some things, if you're in BRC, right now, or some things that maybe, or if you're in your first 3 months, some things that you should be trying to hone in on, some things that you should be studying up on? Like, what are some things that you would say you definitely need to know in the beginning?
I think a big thing, not necessarily knowledge wise, but just personality wise, is the ability to, and David Goggins says it best, the most important conversation is the conversation you have with yourself. Look in the mirror and ask yourself, am I a NCO or staff NCO that hides behind my Marines, or am I someone who leads from the front? And you said it earlier, there's not shitty recruiters, it's just shitty Marines that don't want to do the job. That was a big thing. A lot of internal soul searching, really, to figure out what type of person you're going to be. Because if you are one that hides, like, you're going to get exposed real quick, because you're essentially low man on the totem pole again, and the work's on you this time. You don't have the pleasure of having other people do things for you. So I think that's a big thing, is to really think about what you're going to do and how you're going to be. The other thing too, this kind of goes back to the initial point of the whole conversation, is uh, have a thirst for knowledge. Like, I wanted to know everything. I wanted to know everything about the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, colleges, everything. And if I didn't know, it would really bother me. And I would sit there and try to figure it out. I would ask questions. I would call people. I would call people in the fleet. I would call random places and act like I was a student trying to get information about this program. And they would tell me everything about it. Or if I couldn't find it online, I wanted to know everything. So, I mean, I don't think there's any singular thing you should know. I think there's a lot of things you should do, and should, like, the way you should act and conduct yourself. Thirst for knowledge, get out there and getting after it, not waiting for it to come to you.
Yeah.
Developing your personal skills, communication wise, getting out of your comfort zone, role playing with the other Marines in the office, making that role play the most uncomfortable situation you've ever been in your entire life. Because just when you think you've seen it all, I promise you, that kid's going to sit down in front of you, and it's like, I want to own my own taco truck and be a doctor and, sail the 7 seas. And you're just like, oh my, where do I even start with this kid? What do I do? What do I say? How do I make this conversation go the way I want it to? I think another thing too is just the ability to be mentally resilient. Marines are creatures that don't often get told no, especially NCOs, right? You're going to get told no every day. It just is what it is. You're also going to get disrespected. Unfortunately, it's just that it is what it is. You have to be able to say, okay, and just let it roll off so you can go on to the next. Go the extra mile, I think, is a big thing. I set out to be my recruiter when I went on recruiting duty. I was like, I'm going to be Sergeant Hogan. He's First Sergeant Hogan now. I'm going to be him. And I remembered once I started trying to do the things that I remember he did for me, and just for all the kids I enlisted with, I didn't really realize like how much time, number one, that takes, and number two, like you're in it, you're devoted. This guy, I texted him within my first couple of months out there, and I was like, I just want to thank you for everything you did for us, because I never realized how much you were doing, in the background, all the things he was doing for us, and then all the stuff you don't see as a poolee that you have to do as a recruiter, drive time, and going to do PCs at 8:00 at night, and talking to parents and things like that. So I think going the extra mile is just going to pay off for you in the long run. Involve your family too. If you have a family, involve them in as much as you can, because I think the big thing, because obviously spouses and recruiting duty, that's a constant conversation. But I think a lot of times it goes back to effective communication skills. We don't communicate to our spouse like what we're doing, and they don't understand the purpose behind why you're doing this. Why are you going to go get this birth certificate for this kid 3 counties over at like 9:00 at night, or something stupid like that? And it's like, well, this kid is poor. You just know the name, you don't know the person. This kid's really poor. He's in a bad situation. He needs to get out of here, and I'm just trying to help him out. That was a big thing that really, really helped me, was just involving my family at every step of the way. Introducing them to police, introducing parents.
Bro, my wife knew every single pulley in the office. Yep. She knew their parents. If I ever had PCs, my wife went with me to PCs.
Yeah, I've had a couple times.
Literally, I involved my wife with everything, bro. My wife we would do barbecues, we would do Saturday. Yep. Like, my wife would make food for the whole office. Like, she would come by with my kids. Like, it was, and that's the thing too, man, is having a good pool program. And it's like you were talking about earlier, man, is just having once you have everything encompassed and working for you, and all the programs are working for you, you truly get to love the duty. And that's and that's kind of, and that's what I want to end on, really, is just like, that's my whole purpose for doing these episodes and doing the podcast was, for me, all I ever heard was negativity about the duty. I've never heard positivity. I've never heard good things like you're talking about. And for me, it's like, it's effed up, because every time I go to like an I&I unit, a reserve unit, I always see their sergeant major, the first sergeant, or the company gunny, and they always have their drill instructor wall with all of their different knickknacks. And I'm like, you never see that
No,
about recruiting duty.
you
You
don't. No.
nobody ever proudly walks around like, yeah, man, I fucking killed it on the streets for 3 years, and that was the best fucking part of my Marine Corps career. But yet, drill instructors have this fucking like pride about them. And it's
Yeah,
like, to me, it's like I want to, like, that shit should fucking change. Like
yeah,
it's bothersome to me that everybody who's on recruiting duty, I can't say everybody, but 9 out of 10 people who are on recruiting duty are literally biding time to get the fuck off of it. And they're like, I can't wait till it's over. This is the worst time of my life. And I think it's, I don't know, man. I think there just needs to be a lot more work put in. I mean, from the command standpoint, maybe, because I feel like there's just, like there's no reason. There's a line, because like the army, they have, hey, you can only work 8 to 5, but then they don't make mission and their numbers are trash. So it's like it's like, what the fuck do you do? You know what I mean?
I think a big reason for, maybe the stress that you feel can be a couple reasons, but I think the overarching reason is just we're so small, and 70% of the Marine Corps exits after 4 years, and we're also the youngest branch service as far as like age wise. At the typical Marine on active duty is anywhere between it's like 21 and 24 or something like that.
Yeah.
So like dudes do it for a couple years, get everything that we promised them when they sat in the chair at the RSS, and then they get out and they're exactly what the Marine Corps is supposed to do. The three main goals: make Marines, win battles, and return quality citizens. And they do those things. But I think that's the compounding side of why recruiting, at least for the Marine Corps, is stressful, because
That's true.
um,
You know what? I never thought about it like that. I'm glad that
yeah,
you put that. I never thought about it like that.
yeah. And I think that's the overarching portion is and the manpower model, the way it's set up is not based off of um, retention, because retention, you're obviously retaining someone past their first 4 years. The recruiting and accession model, at least the way I understand it, is to meet that the PFC and Lance Corporal that's ever abundant in the Marine Corps, and replacing that guy a year or 2 years out. And also just kind of keeping the Marine Corps going. I used to tell parents and kids this all the time, that America doesn't need a Marine Corps. America wants a Marine Corps, and we get the privilege to be Marines and the privilege to sustain the Marine Corps. So I think that's another reason that it might be a little bit more stressful than the average experience of, say, an Army or Air Force recruiter. Is they're not fighting to keep their branch around, and we are. We America wants it, and I think we need it. You know what I mean? So, and I think another issue could be area. So take a recruiter in RS San Diego. They're they probably have a lot more time to develop pool and things like that, because they're not necessarily they're not going 10 miles and not seeing a single house.
Yeah.
With open fields and farms. There's 2 million people in a 100 square mile radius. It's different. And I think that in certain areas across America, especially like I'll take Albany, for example, we're so spread out. It's hard to, I think that's probably one of the hardest RSs to recruit out of, but also it's full of hidden gems and just people that there's propensity there. You know what I mean? Like it's going out and finding people to just talk to. That's the problem. And I think a lot of RSs across America probably experience the same thing. It's just there's not a lot of density in population, and it's difficult for them. That's why you always see Fort Lauderdale and San Diego and New York City and all these places killing it, because there's a large population density.
Yeah.
But then you run into issues like kids being DQ'd, like in
All day.
yeah, all day, every day. So.
But no, I get it, man. So for the listeners, if you want more product knowledge, you got to ask the questions and be specific on what product knowledge you're looking for. You got to search for the product knowledge. And then one thing you can also do is go in your interview log
Mhm.
and put it by benefit tag, so you can see what benefit tag your issue is. Like when you have your non-committals, okay, what benefit tag am I not good at knowing the product knowledge that I need to know? Okay, well, I got to work on that. If you're not good at educational benefits, then maybe you need to learn more about educational opportunity. Maybe you need to learn more about that. Maybe you need to dive into the vabenefits.com. You need to go into that. You need to find out, hey, what does it take for me to go to all of these colleges in my AO, and what are they looking for? So that's really all I got. And then as far as AC canvassing, be hungry. Area canvassing, be hungry. Get uncomfortable and just talk to everybody you can. Pack them out, follow up with them, try to get a same day appointment. Stop trying to freaking, set appointments for a Monday on Friday. Like, bro, just get a same day, do what you gotta do. Don't have, lower your no-show rate. But do you have anything that you want to leave us with? Any pieces of advice? Anything at all before we cap this off?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing, kind of going back to what I said before, is don't care. Like, just do the best to be the person that you're supposed to be. Always take care of the kids. That's really what it's all about in the long run. And honestly, just try and have fun with it. It's going to be difficult at times, but you can either sit there and be in the swamp of sadness, or you can make it fun for yourself.
Yeah.
So
That's it, man. Don't care. Do you, be you. And that's the biggest thing, especially when it comes to area canvassing, is people can see right the fuck through you, especially these young ass kids. So these young ass kids know that that's not who you are. So if you're a geek and you're nerding it up, then bro, you're gonna recruit people that are you. You're going to recruit you. That is the reality of it. You're gonna look at all of your poolies, and they're all gonna look just like you, and they're all gonna have the same mannerisms as you. Maybe once in a while they'll be a little different, but 9 times out of 10, if you're emo, you're gonna recruit emo kids. If you're a hip hop rap star and you're confused with life, you're gonna do that. If you're a rock, whatever you are, that's what you're gonna recruit. You agree?
yeah, that's a good point to take a look at people's. And I'm thinking about my pool right now. If I had all of them standing in front of me, and you could probably see where I started off and where I ended. Where I started off with kids like me, but then by the time I ended, I had 3 sport athletes, I had cheerleaders, I had nerdy kids, I had band kids, I had
you grow.
all sorts of diversity.
Yeah. So get the product knowledge, learn how to AC from everybody around you, pick their brains, learn from them. And then if you have any more questions, be a little bit more, because for me, this Facebook page, it's an awesome tool, but people just say like a one-liner and that's it. It's like, let's get into the actual discussion of it. Okay, what did you hate and what did you do to change it? What did you hate? What could you have done to change it? Did you actually change it, or did you just bitch about it? And then what are you doing to help the person on the streets now? So thanks for coming out, man. I really appreciate you, listening. I appreciate you talking to us. And I hope everything, goes well with you in your future endeavors and the rest of your career. And good luck, man.
Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks a lot, brother.
Peace out.